Let's wait another minute or two. You want people to come. What's that? I did. Yeah. I did the puzzle on. Yeah. So this year, I don't want to get too into it right now, but I'll just start. There will be a portion of the presentation that will be interactive if you'd like to, and we can put a puzzle together. Yeah. Which, you know, there will be, we're going to work together. We're going to do it. It'll be fun. The clue I can give you is it turns into a circle. 14 pieces. Seems simple, but I've seen, you know, little girl about that tall put it together herself. But then I've seen scientists, engineers, and architects couldn't do it. But they weren't open to suggestions. They said no. So I think we're geniuses. But the kids, okay, I better not get into this resolution. Once those steps come up.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Dave Robinson. Name Keith, Thunder and Anishinaubee from the Temiskaming First Nation, Northwestern Quebec, Algonquin Anishinaabee. Very grateful to be here as a visitor. Nameless, Coast Salish people's land. And so I'll begin the presentation. So what I'm presenting on today is sculpture, carving, but really art and education, and how it opens up a space, and how it's not something that I planned out with education, but it was just how it all. I'll begin a story of how it all happened. I started carving and education. Is I was working at a program called Take a Hike in Vancouver, and I brought in like a carving about this big, you know, to show them. And that's about as big as a carving that I made, all just small stuff. Right? And they said, "Oh, you're a carver." I said, "Yeah." You know, I haven't really done much. And they said, "Well, do a carving with us." So I said, "Okay." And so I went out to this mill in Mission, and I bought 4 logs, 1 yellow cedar, 3 red cedar. So I dropped off the log at school, and that's how it began. The kids and myself would meet twice a week, and we talk about the log, and they're like, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know. What do you think we should do?" Right? Because there was no real plan. It was a process, and I brought the tools. We talk about it, and through that process, the kids would start to share their voice, and we would go forward on what they found interesting, right? About the log, and I would share what I was learning from. I was in a UBC wood science class at the time, so I was sharing with them what I was learning about the cellular structure of wood, about the strengths and weaknesses. I was also fortunate at the time I was going to NITEP, which is the Native Indian Teacher Education Program. At that time, Bill Dick was the artist in residence at UBC, and so I was bringing him pictures and I was asking him questions about things like checks, the cracks in wood, right? And I would take that knowledge, go back to these and start sharing. And so that's a little bit about how I got started in carving and education. And I'll just share about a few things that I brought here today. So this was a project that is just one circle, right? And on this circle, we have a star. And this circle here is connected to 3 other circles. So in the beginning, this was a plank of yellow cedar wood, about this big. And Damien Wilman, who's a principal at the time, John Oliver Secondary, he had called me after there was some problem at the school. He said, we're having this anti-bullying thing. Could you come and do a project? I said, no problem. And he said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm not sure yet. But I went out to Windsor Plywood and I bought this piece of yellow cedar. And it was actually 10 foot long when I bought it. It went into 4 walking sticks, but I just brought in this plank. And it was on anti-bullying day. I said, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to get the kids to sign the plank board. And when they're signing it, you're signing an agreement or a contract that they're going to treat each other in a good way. And you're going to see and feel each other through the 4 parts of being: the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, and the intellectual ways of being. We're signing an agreement to see and feel each other in a good way. And so the students did. They just started signing it. And kids that had interest every week, I would be in the wood shop class. They would show up, and we'd make the cuts, made 4 circles, started grasping, and slowly the kids would start to connect with me and share what they wanted to do after high school, some of the struggles that they had, and it was quite interesting, you know. And so a lot of that knowledge I won't share here, other than what I found was, when the youth are able to come to a space that's a safe space and they're allowed to use tools in a safe way, all of a sudden they develop a connection, not just with the project, but with the other persons around, right? And what I also found is from that experience, the other teachers, not just from that classroom, other teachers start to come and visit. The principals come and start to visit. And so in that way, it's the cultural aspect is the medicine, right? And right now, I'm doing my PhD at UBC in Experimental Medicine. What I'm talking about is the wellness of carving, the community that develops around carvings, tradition in education. I use the First Nations Mental Health and Wellness Continuum Framework as one of the frameworks that I model my work off. And what that says is, it's basically a big circle. If you look at it, there's a whole bunch of different things on it. There's got to be 50 different parts of what they're saying is society: governance, policing, trauma-informed care, schooling. It's all in there, right? Very confusing when you look at it. And so my older sister, Dr. Jennifer Robinson, I called her up because she was a senior health policy analyst at the time. That helped launch it. I said, Jen, what is this? Very confusing. I don't understand. She said, well, look at the back. It's red. And she says, the red represents Mother Earth. And all those different parts, if they don't begin with culture, because culture comes from Mother Earth, you're not going to achieve the outcomes of wellness, which are in the center. And in the center, the outcomes of wellness are meaning, purpose, belonging, and hope. And through these carbon projects, working with the youth, that's what I found is every week coming, learning a little bit more about me. I learn a little bit more about them. They get to engage with the wood. They develop a meaning. They develop a purpose. This is going to be for someone else. This is going to be for your school. And through that, there's a belonging, right? And so those outcomes of wellness become achieved in our medicine through the cultural aspects of carving, of doing these projects. I'll show you this one here. This one here, and at any time you can ask a question. This one here is a special piece because the actual board comes from at UBC Longhouse. This was built in the 90s. There was a big boardwalk in front of it, and they deemed them Well, they took them all out 5 years ago. I got some of the boards and it built a circle out of the UBC farm. This was the last of the boards that I had. And so I brought it in, working at 5 schools this year. And so I brought it in to show, to ask the kids what they thought. Right? And I taught them a little bit about the wood, you know. These black lines show that there's fires. Fires happen naturally. They happen every few years. And I asked them, you know, what do you want to see? And I would bring in the tools and we used hand drills, saws, chisels, no axes. But I would also teach them about the geography, right? The different elements. So along here we have different types of crystals, rose quartz, clear quartz crystal, big fluorite, peacock ore, blue calcite, zebra. I don't know the first part of it. But there's all sorts of different scientific elements that we're talking about, geographical elements and mathematical parts to the carving, to the sculpture. And in that way, it's expanding what is possible to learn through art. And also, this knot here is from a 100-foot sculpture that is not put together yet, but is made. And what goes in the center was a blue lapis rock that ended up getting gifted to someone. So that rock is unique. But this was all developed from the youth of 5 schools. You know, I would bring different things like the crystals to show them, like the different knots from the other trees. And together we created the sculpture. And that's a community because they're aware of the other youth from the other schools that are participating. I would share the history that comes from those other schools. And what this represents is the gold represents currency. The currency is of this piece, the value of this piece is the good work of those young people. The good work of them working together, showing up, showing their creativity and their interests. The crystals all have different properties. And those different properties are representative of the youth that come and each of their individual gifts they have to give to the world, to give to each other to help. And the branch represents the different branches, the different schools of different communities that are part of this. And the blue lapis rock, when it was used to be here, represented water, which connects us all. And that was around the heart area. So that's a little bit about that piece. And that piece will be gifted to Britannia Elementary. So, are there any questions? Okay. Share a bit about this. Yeah.
See, there's one question from like, do the kids you find when they're like working and moving and rhythm that they also prefer than that like talking about their parents or grandparents, siblings, and we are able to build cultural connections with them?
Yeah, so oftentimes whenever I start a project, I'll anchor an old person to come in and start the work, right? And so when they hear those teachings come, they'll often share, maybe not in the moment, but in carving sessions after, what they've seen in their life, what they remember from their aunts and uncles. You know, I remember so often youth just I'll bring a small piece of wood, you know, and I'll share something, and after a bit of time, the youth that I hadn't connected with will share. This is what my uncle told me. Well, this is what I heard, and I'll validate that. And I'll say that's good knowledge, and thank you for teaching. And this is what I've heard. And through that way, they really have a sense of belonging. Great question. And the best thing I can think of in the moment for that question, I have to remember exactly how I, but there was a young person, and I don't remember what his actual question was, but I had said to him something about, it had something to do about, we had just visited the UBC House. Oh, that's right, funding. So there's this guy, Paul Poole, at UBC, and he's a very cool guy. You go see Paul because he figures out ways to get you access to funding. And so I was introducing this young person, telling him, go to NITEP one day, you can do it. And I said, you see that guy over there? He said, yep. I said, when you come here, go see that guy and tell him need money. He's going to give you the money, right? He has access, and it's true. Every semester there's something called emergency funds. So every semester you need emergency funds, right? For food, rent, whatever it is, and he'll give you access to that, as well as other things, right? So I said, you see that guy? And Paul Poole, you go see him when you come here. And he's got money. He's a money guy. And he said, that reminds me of my uncle. Whenever we're at a gathering, my uncle would point to one of my other uncles and say, go ask him for $20. He's your money guy. And so in those small ways, there's through doing things together, right? That something becomes achieved, and different elements of the culture become together. A lot of it has to do with memory. Pieces like this also bring out memories, teachings. So in this piece, at one time, this was one of 21 different sculptures that were 10 feet tall. And last year at Britannia, myself and kids from different alternative education schools, we made 21 different sculptures, all by hand. And they went into 4 boxes. There was 4 that got left over. This was, and question, what do you think it is? Does it look like? It could be an eye. A what? A kayak. So I've heard that. Yeah. It changes depending on the side. And so what this is, what all of these are teaching tools. These are teaching tools for talking about something that we need to, which is wellness. They're also for talking about science and math. In here, we're able to share about history. Each one of these lines here is 1 year of life of this tree. The tree was 120 years, comes from somewhere else. And I think there's a lot more I'd like to share with this piece, but I think actually it's time that we should do some interaction. And so what I'm going to propose is that we work together to make this circle puzzle. So there's different pieces of it. Okay? And what I'm going to propose is that when you come up, each person can come up once. There's 14 pieces. There's more than 14 people here, but I know that it's going to take more than 14 to do. So I'll give you some clues. There's a north, there's south, and east, and west. Goes into a circle and it's a compass. How it'll go is you can take a piece from up here and put it down here. Okay? And we're gonna make a circle. We're gonna make a compass, and we're gonna work together. And I've seen young people to older, very educated people. Not all, some kids. The little kids I've seen do it. Seen older, very smart people not do. But it's through working together that we'll accomplish this. Okay. So sure. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Would you like to come? Oh. Well, No, because I would shovel around. So just remember, the clue is that it's a compass. Thank you. Yeah. And I'll give you some clues. There's checks here, lines of it. Those checks are they're gonna follow through. Yeah. So what started happening at different schools is I'll bring this puzzle in, and it's the first thing we'll do. It's all the different classes, right? What's happened this year is we've started to make different shapes of puzzles. So actually we have a puzzle right now that's in the shape of a whale. And the kids actually said they wanted this piece to go into a puzzle. Not going to do that. Started to do that is to make different pieces of the puzzle, different shapes. Yeah, just feel free to come on up.
Hard.
It's very good. There's really it's about working together. See, once we get them into a particular enough pieces down, then what we can do is I'll start to give more precise clues. And the biggest clue I'm going to say is that the lines from the top go straight through to the bottom. And then this is made of a bunch of triangles. Oh. And the east is made of 3 pieces. You're on the right track with that one there. Yep, you're on the right track. Okay, so I just want to point this one out. What's your name? Jen. Just put one of the hardest pieces together. So I want you to all see this. Yeah. So what Jen's done is she's used actually one of the scientific properties of wood, which is the biggest clue of this puzzle to put it together. These cracks here are checks, all right, are going to follow through to that. And what she did was she saw that this triangle here had 3 lines that connect to these 3, okay? And so that's a big clue that going forward until we complete this to remember that, okay? So I'll give another clue, and I'll come in to help out in different parts. These will probably end up a little bit closer, right? Puzzle probably about that big brown. And so, but for now, we know that those 2 go together. And to use what you see there up here. And you know what? You can go more than once, right? Come on up here. Oh. Yeah. And it's a very tricky one. Yeah. Oh, so this puzzle, good question. This puzzle is about 10 years old. It's been all across Canada. My youngest niece in Pekogan, I don't, she's about that tall. I don't know how old she was. She helped me put it together 3 years ago at an Algonquin gathering. All stuff in Algonquin came together. It's also been to New York, and so thousands of kids have helped out.
So much this.
It says. No.
That's enough.
So what I'll do. Keep working, and in a moment, I'll ask everyone to step back and I'll give some clues. You're on, okay, hold on, everyone stop for a sec. You're on the right track. You're on the right track. With the north, those two pieces go together. The south, those two pieces go together.
They got disconnected. The south
Right?
one got
Yeah.
disconnected.
Right? And so, and I'm gonna go one step further. This is the first time I'm gonna come in. Okay?
What if I feel really angry and frustrated in this moment?
That's okay. And it's good to voice that. Now, you're on the right track with that piece there. Now, what I'll say, the east is made of 3 pieces. So the eastern side, 3 pieces.
That's my contribution. Yeah, I did just say that. This is fun.
So now the next clue is to look for the triangle. That's right. That triangle. I'm just going to stop and say this piece is in the right place. East is made of 3 pieces. Oh. And I'll tell you something that happened with the east. Why it's into 3 pieces is because I screwed up. Try to show you guys something. Okay, I'm going to show you something. What happened? Is you see how it says east on the bottom? Well, I had the puzzle, or I had the pieces, all the circle, and I started carving them, and I put the east on, right? But I put the east on the west side. Then, oh no, so I took the puzzle over and I started over. So it's kind of cool though, because no matter where you put this piece, right, it's always going to be the east in any direction, upside down. East everywhere. But the 2 other pieces that go with it. There you go. Now, there's one piece that's a trickster piece, and several, but it's soft on all sides. So you don't know what side's the top, what side's the bottom. And so this puzzle was finished with kids from what they call UBC Cedar Science. And so kids from all over BC came to UBC once a month for 5 months. They sanded them. When we were sanding them, one of the kids sanded it on all sides. And he said, "Oh, sorry." I said, "No, it's good." And it ended up, it's one of the best pieces. Or it's one of that's the piece. Yeah, that's the piece. You're very close with those 2 that you got there. You got the right idea. It's one of those pieces that is the wrong one. Yeah, you're in the right idea though. It's all triangles. Very cool. So yeah, and they're all similar triangles, and so they're all very similar triangles. You want some food with your help? Want some help? Oh, there you go. That's good. That's where that goes. So we're very close. There's 2 pieces out of place right now. 3. But hold on. Everyone step back for a second. And you can come back in. So There's 3 pieces on the plate here. Right? And that's one of them. Earlier, you guys, and girls, had that piece in the right place. So in that piece, what I'll say is, where is there a gap in the puzzle? There we go. So put it in there somewhere. Yes, kind of goes like that. There we go. Yeah, there you go. Kind of, there we go. Done. Okay, so now there's 3 pieces here that are out of place. What? So these 2, and there's one other piece.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. And a different one. There we go. Now that's the trick. That's the trickster piece, right?
Oh.
There we go. Good job. So I'd like to congratulate you. And this is very difficult because there's so many people working together. But we did it. And I'd just like to go around and hear how you felt.
Good teamwork.
Can you see how this would be a building exercise for you?
Yeah.
And the mathematical concepts of triangles, shape recognition, science of the checks in the wood. Because the thing about it is we could take one part of this and we could go further. We could show the kids pictures of wood cells, right? We could teach them about how wood is built, and how they're looking at it. So if you'll see this piece here, I'll just bring it around. As you can see, there's circles. Those circles are the rings of the tree, right? And as we all know, the rings of that tree are the years of life. Now, this particular part of the tree, rings of the tree, is what they call the pith. The pith is the first year of life of the tree, right? So when this tree was standing, this was the beginning of its life. And so it was about this long, it was 30 feet wide, right? Or this it was about this wide, it was 30 feet long. And what we're looking at here and working with is the first year of life. And generally in milling wood, that's the section they're going to take out because it's the most unstable. It's the closest to rotting, And I don't make totem poles. I make big sculptures, but I've talked with different people that have done poles and totem poles, such things like that. And what they've shown me, told me, one person in particular, Shane Point. One time we were in the Vancouver Friendship Center and said, "Go look at that pole over there." I said, "Okay." He said, "Look in the back of it." So I looked in the back, and a big conversation was always checks, cracks, right? And he goes, "What'd you notice?" I said, "Looks hollowed out, right? They hollowed the backside out." And what else? I said, "Well, there's no cracks." And so that's this, in Western and in Indigenous engineering, sometimes you take out that center bit because it's the most unstable, and when you do that, stabilizes the wood, closes the checks in the front side. And so I learned about this also. It's a different sculpture that's in the old Begbie Elementary School. And so it's about 10-foot long piece that came from a bigger sculpture, 16-foot. And it had checked. I seen it when it was checking. And I seen it open up like that. And it really worried me because it became unstable. But I used coals to hollow it out. And when I did that, the checks all closed because I took out that unstable part of the wood. And so in all of these different projects, when you focus on a particular area, you can bring the knowledge or the science or the math aspects of that further, depending on the interests of the kids. Some of the kids are going to be more interested in sculpture aspect. Some are going to have an interest in mathematical aspects. Some are going to be more interested in the scientific aspects. And that's why it's interdisciplinary. And that's also why, as the continuum teaches us, is medicine, because it brings us that belonging, that purpose, that meaning, to each other, to the products we're working with.
So are you, so honestly, bringing the medicine culture into the work you do, if you also then, like, gradually, through carving, through the other able to then you build a new curriculum based around carving, teaching all the subjects.
Yeah.
Culture,
Yeah.
and then that part of the program.
So last year, the Treasure Boxes project, which was with Vancouver School Board, and I was the carver. Youth that were in alternative education schools would come work with me for 5 months. We would carve the wood, and they would get 2 credits towards the graduation. So kids graduate because they came to carve. And it was through, I had to submit the curriculum for science, social studies, and art. And for the very cultural stuff, I'm not a carrier of secret knowledge. I've just heard a few things here and there. And so not sharing secrets or anything like that, but I do have knowledge and I do have cultural knowledge, and I share that with the youth. And I anchor old people to come in and share. My mother, a uncle and elder from Temiskaming, Dr. Jocelyn Robinson, I was anchored her to come. In most of the projects that I've done in the past, Elder Shane Point would anchor him to come. And to come and share knowledge. My friend Rupert Richardson, I've anchored him to come. And so I think what's important is the TRC. One of the things that they identified was the gap in Indigenous professionals. That's a gap that needs to be addressed. And so when young people see an Indigenous teacher, Indigenous carver / teacher out there working, and all of a sudden they see something that they say, I can do that. I can be like that, right? And they may not be a teacher, but I can be a professional. And that's why that's so important, to address that gap with Indigenous professionals. That's why it's so important for myself to be in a position in a school, in a university, presenting at these types of conferences. As well, lost my train of thought. But yeah, this is my partner. So,
Wait, can you correlate for me and being here all the time to focus also on physical well-being and sports, and how it correlates to, I know you were a boxer and a hockey player, and just how carving has a similar body aspect and that comes around with this too.
yep, the process. And so there's a process to. I was the North American Native Boxing Champ back in 2003, and fought all over North America. Fought at the World Championships in 2004, 2003 as well. And what I know from being in competition and from training for competition is that you need a spiritual self, an intellectual self, an emotional, physical. You need all 4 parts of those things in order to be successful. And when we're working with the wood, it's important that we're regulating. Sometimes this is the regulation piece. You just not feel good. It could be that you haven't eaten today. It could be that something happened last night. Whatever it is, this is a meeting place where people can come to regulate themselves, feel safe, and then share if they want to. And that happens often. and it's very interesting, you know. I'm working at this one school. No, I probably won't say the name of the school, but there's mostly First Nations kids. And I'll just hang out in this room. I'll usually just go around, I'll pull kids out of classrooms. There, that's what happens, right? So pull just the native kids out of the rooms. I'll just work with full classes. But what started happening in school is I'll just sit in the room where I'm allowed to sit. And the native kids will start to come in. They'll start to engage and ask questions, share a little bit of what they've seen in the past. And I'll ask them, do you want to do this work? Yes, I do. Then come. When I'm here, you come. And that's a really important part. Again, not just being an Indigenous professional, but also holding an Indigenous space. And that's a very difficult thing. Dr. Lee Brown, when I was working at the UBC farm, or UBC Indigenous garden, one of the things that he pointed out about the sacred space that we were working in is that holding an Indigenous space within a Western institution is the most difficult thing, right? Because all of a sudden, just the compromises that end up having to be made to protect that space that is Indigenous and for Indigenous people is just so often compromised. And so it's just such a beautiful thing to be able to go to these schools and have a small period of time, whether it's an hour, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, where a young Native person can come in and spend time with a mentor and a piece of wood and just be. So that's the medicine of this work. That's the importance of this work, not just for culture, but for Western academics and for the teachers also. The teachers and the principals have reflected to me that they see the difference in their school population. They see the connection. Actually, 3 years ago during COVID, I did a project with Lord Bing. And Lord Bing, it was when the shutdown happened, right? So we had started this project called the Red Cedar Heartland River. What it was a piece of wood that had sapwood on one side, which is the living wood of a tree, and the heartwood, which is this dead wood of a tree, on the other. And again, we used the concept of signing a contract. And we signed the sapwood, because the sapwood is the living part of the wood, right? And there had been some serious bullying, like white supremacy problems at that time. And so we were addressing that. Again, that we're going to sign the agreements that we're going to see and respect each other through the 4 parts of being on the living wood. And we're going to sculpt and carve the history with something new, something that we're going to learn from, that we're not going to forget. And so once the shutdown happened, every week, the kids I'd send out a question on the computer through my videos, and they would give responses. So I think in total we had 2,000 responses. Where every week I give a question, I'd give an update on what had happened. We do so for however long that period was. I think it was 7 days, 7 weeks. Myself and kids through COVID interacted. We had a land-based, art-based experience via online. And it was something that was medicine. It was something that was addressing a problem within the school, racial problem. Right? And, the following year when I went, kids would come up to me and say, hey, this is what I said. This is what I said. And just, it was an amazing experience. The kids had that connection, they had that meaning, they had that purpose of belonging through this land-based, earth-based experience, whether it's via online or in person. So I think this is an important thing, and there should be more programs out there for young people to engage with and be a part of. Because also, there's through these carbon projects, I've connected kids now that are going to university. They're going to someone, well, one of them at least I know is going to NICA. Others are gone on to be not university but college programs. So it's an avenue for Indigenous professionals to hear the needs and the wants of the young people, and then to connect them with the resources they have, whether it be college or getting a job. But I think one young guy had ended up being young, so I gave him a letter of recommendation being there. Another one wanted to be a police officer, so I went down to the police officer station and gave him a recommendation. Happy to say several kids have gone many things, but the meeting space was a safe cultural space that had to do with carving. So that's a bit. That's what I have here. Yes. They do, yeah. And they ask what, well, often they know where the pieces are. Right? And so, yeah, but they'll talk about it, say what they remember. And it's always interesting to hear because it's something that I won't remember until they bring it up. Okay? And something that impacted them. Yes.
You find it mostly male, position?
No. But that is that's when the teachers mostly pass on is the male one, but when it's actually just in a group setting, I found equal interest, male and female. Yeah. And equal interest, creativity, everything. Several of the young ladies will engage with it, yeah, and they'll take the tool and do the work, yeah, and then they'll take this group. And so I haven't noticed that it's more a male thing. Yes.
Sharing so much about this last aspect of it, but I'll turn it back to you. And as an instructor, and after being in this space, what does this bring to you? How does it change your life?
I'll say, I'll go into classes generally. So for this last 2 weeks, I'll go into class and I'll have pieces on my head on right here like this, right? And because I'm doing most of the tool work, they're not doing a lot of the tool work for this piece. I'll ask them to say, first I'll share, some history of what's happened. We'll have an interaction. I'll pass them rock around, right? Talking rock that they can all share what they want. Normally it's a blue and but then at the end I'll ask them, I'll say, would you like to come up and feel the piece? Right? And they will. And there's an energy, just an energy, reciprocal energy. They're putting their hands over the piece and you can hear it, you can feel it, and it's like when I used to work out, you do that good round, the last round on bag, last 100 meters, you get like a little bit of a high, right? And when they're coming up and they're having that experience with it, wow, and just saying what they see, what they feel, it's like water, it's like steroids. Then I'd say that's a medicinal thing for me. That's good medicine, and I know that I'm doing a good job. So that's the benefit for me. Plus, I get to share with other people. This is a benefit that isn't just cultural thing. It's an academic thing, right? This is something that needs to be offered and needs. So it's the measurement. I got into some, you could say, arguments about the measurement of this type of work, right? So when kids are coming and they're sharing with me about, well, why don't we cut this piece into a puzzle? And they'll say, well, the cracks, right? Because of the center, because of the cracks, if you cut it here, it's going to be unstable because it's not just going to cut into a piece like this, it's going to cut in these ways. So when they demonstrate to me that they're not just looking at the shape, then all of a sudden they're looking at the scientific aspects of the wood, the elements of the wood, then what they're doing is they're demonstrating to me that I can measure what they just told me beyond an artistic thing. All of a sudden, you're looking at the mathematical concept of wood, the strength of wood, the engineering of wood, and the science of wood. And so the measurements of these types of projects need to be interdisciplinary. As well, putting this together, this wasn't just this was something where you all work together and you use the small little scientific aspects that I've shared with you, the mathematical aspects of shape recognition. Simple thing like shape recognition is something that very educated people don't always get, right? And so it's how we measure it. That's often how the Western system falls short, is on the measurement of different activities. Yes.
What are some of your favorite kind of pieces to make, like on your own?
So on my own, they happen. I like to work on bigger pieces, because they can take my time, and it's okay to be frustrated. And oftentimes I'll go do pieces up in the schools that things have to happen. They need to see. Kids need to see progress. You can't just I can't bring this piece for 4 weeks in a row and nothing happens. Each week there has to be a transformation, right? Like complete transformation. And that's what they're going to respond to. That's what they're going to need, because when the piece transforms, they transform in it. And all of a sudden, once they click onto that, they go, whoa, yeah, I did transform. I am different now. Right, and then all of a sudden their creativity, because it's a safe space. It's okay to transform, right? It's okay to be different, and it's okay to see something different than your neighbor. Some kids see an eye, some kids see a canoe, whale. They see all different things, and once you open up that space, right, of transformation and of okayness, to be creative, then that's the medicine. Yes. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't answer that question exactly. The pieces, I'll get back to you. The pieces that I make at home, they just take longer. They're bigger, and I can kind of push the boundaries a little bit more, because it's okay if it screws up. But there's never really a screw up, right? I've had pieces that were 10 foot that end up being like tiny, right? But they're really cool. But this piece here, making for my partner, started off with this big, right? And there was like 2 bird heads that came out like this, pretty awesome. But no, like cut the heads off. Yeah, and it turned into a whale tail that on this side was going in the water. Flipped it was going out. It was pretty cool, but no, I cut it off. Just kept getting smaller. But now I think the whale came back. Floppy fish on this. So, but this piece.
I heard that the perfectionist in me wanted what I wanted. Small piece to have in my memory tradition, and I wanted it to be a piece that I could take to 12 county kids that we have in the whole. Well, what was really cool that I had an experience that your kids experience every day with you is that I had seen the birds. Like, it was a huge piece of me that I've never seen that before. And I got connected to how whenever I see birds outside, I thought I was crazy because it was always like a grandparent talking or a family member. And he just reiterated that was very normal. And so that was like a beautiful things like connecting and kids connect every day with them. And then it's a whale, which I'm a competitive swimmer. I love whales, but I want something really small. And he knew when to stop. He knew to stop, and I kept pushing him to keep going. So that was a really interesting process to do. That I had to next time I want to.
Well, this piece here was 10 foot tall. It was like
That's not my fault.
and she wanted different, so I cut the head off, cut the tail off, made it into an eye, and it still wasn't quite there. So And from the help of kids, we ended up using a V chisel to make the line because it shows, so in a tree, and I think I probably come to the end of my presentation here, so I'll just say, I'll say a few more things here. Yes, one moment. In a tree, there's spring and summer, fall and winter. You know, and so you see the skinny line and then some space in between it. Spring and summer is the thicker, lighter wood. The skinny line is the fall and winter. And so again, so many different ways to teach young people about history. You know, trees that grow out east are going to have skinnier rings because it's colder. Trees that grow up in the mountains are going to have skinnier rings because it's cold, it's less air, and it's colder, right? And those cedars, they grow up, you know. And so the different landscapes, different places that you go are going to inform you about the geography that happens. And also one of the things, so I went out east to learn from this guy, Peyton, the Mohawk guy, who makes birch bark canoes. He learned from grandfather William Canada, after canoes were the rest in peace, how to make birch bark canoes. And so I went out to talk to him in Kanawagit. And what he was telling me was hunting stories for about 3 hours. And because I had asked him, how long does it take to make a birch bark canoe? He said hunting stories for 3 hours. What I concluded from the end of it is you need to know the landscape. You know, you need to know that the marshy areas over here, you're going to go harvest this tree. You know, there's higher elevation over here that you go harvest this medicine. And so it's also it's so connected to the land, so connected to the people of the land, and to the people that harvest the land. So it's important in doing these projects that it's not that you can go to a store to buy the wood, but it's got the relationships that whether it's a relationship involved in that interaction or tradition. Did I answer your question? Yes. Okay, all right. So I don't want to hold you for too long. I thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed it.
Dave Robinson, Indigenous Cultural Circle. I'd like to present a certificate presentation, and just to let everyone know, we're just a few minutes behind schedule right now, but we will have a presentation in gymnasium, and there will also be a presentation via Zoom. So yeah, we have a nice little 5-minute break, and be 2 more presentations for today.
Still unstable.
The other I thought that was right. Again, we have 2 minutes.
Yeah.